Okay, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we are going to be reading chapter 2 to Whenever I Stop of Don't Let the Cold In. I've already read chapter 1, so if you missed that, go back and listen to it. Obviously, you can't start at chapter 2. You have to start at chapter 1. But yeah. So here we are then. I stood in the middle of the open-plan living area, dwarfed by the enormity of everything. The wall of bookshelves, the 80-inch flat-screen TV, the huge stone fireplace, and the gleaming steel kitchen. With Mom and Oliver gone, it echoed with emptiness. Yep, Jade stretched her legs out on the sofa like she was taking ownership. Staking her claim. My new sister. We were family, just like that. Just you and me in this whole big place. I glanced out the windows. It was too dark to see anything but the bright reflections of two strangers playing house. Anyone outside would be able to see everything we were doing, without us having a clue they were even there. I'm not shy. Jade sat up straight, daring me to contradict her. I just don't like talking unless I have something to say. I get it. Me neither. I flicked my watch, so I could feel myself struggling to connect with her on any level. Like I was trying to swim in the sky. Dad says you've never been to Tahoe before? Nope, not really in our budget. Mom was always too busy to travel, I guess. Tahoe's our special place. She paused and looked out the window into the night. Don't you find it... I hesitated. Boring? Said Jade, obviously expecting the worst from me. No, not that. Just lonely. I mean, it's so quiet out in the middle of nowhere. Don't you ever get worried being so far from anyone else? Jade smiled. I love it out here. It's a good place to experience nature without being interrupted or interrogated. My face flushed. I hadn't thought of what it might be like for her. It would be cool to explore Tahoe with you. Would it be, though? Ugh, she must hate me already. There's a lot of wildlife. I hope you like bears and mountain lions. Her amber eyes glistened. Now she was teasing me. As long as they're not too close. It was seriously dangerous out there. Honestly, Tahoe is better, especially when it snows, and the skiing's amazing. I never skied in my life, and I didn't expect to be around long enough to learn. Sounds great. I gave a small, tight smile. She fake smiled back, then went out on the deck. The French door shut and clicked behind her. I had failed at the first impression to connect. This was going to be hard, but it was only for the night. I could survive this. I sighed, resigning to give it another shot. It was that or circle around each other for the next 10 hours, which almost sounded better. I followed her outside. The wind whispered through the surrounding trees. I leaned over the railings and inhaled a deep breath of musky pine. Oliver was right. There was nothing like Tahoe mountain air for rinsing out grimy city lungs. The thick darkness took more getting used to. Things moved in the undergrowth, invisible things, scurrying. It's so dark out here. I was thankful for the light of the moon. Sometimes at night, when it's really clear, you can see migrating birds flying over, said Jay, staring up at the sky. And I thought you were looking at the Milky Way, watching for the shooting stars. I looked up. Wow, there's one. Yeah, there's a lot more space action out here. She tapped her fingers on the wooden rails. That's what Dad always looks at. Of course, being an astrologist and all. Astrophysicist. He studies stars, not signs. Oh, that's what I meant. I couldn't tell if she was teasing or actually thought I was stupid. Both, probably. I focused on the bright stars freckling the indigo sky. There were millions of them, all clustered together, staring down at Earth. All those planets explored, galaxies untraveled, and stars were born light years away, could never look up and see the present, only images of the past. Hear that? Jade tilted her head as an owl called from nearby. Great gray owl, shoot. I should probably grab my binoculars. Why don't you use that? I pointed to the telescope. The brass casing winked at me through the window. No. Jade crossed her arms. Why? It was a glare off. She arched her brows. 1, you don't use telescopes to birdwatch. 2, Dad would kill us if we touched that because 3, it was Einstein's and it's priceless. Yeah, right. She seriously couldn't think I'd fall for that. Okay, I'll prove it. She pushed the door open. I followed her inside. The telescope was locked in a glass case, balanced in the sideboard behind the sofa. I ran my finger over the brass inspection. Albert Einstein. For real? And Oliver uses it? Jade hesitated, then gave a half nod. He had it brought it up here so we could see how Einstein saw the stars with his old telescope compared to how they look through Dad's modern ones. He thought it would be fun. Sounds like Oliver. I doubted we included me. If he was planning to use it in any way, would he really be mad if we set it up tonight? Jade perused her lips. I could find one of Dad's better telescopes if that's what you want. You can use that old thing when he's back tomorrow, okay? I nodded, staring at it wistfully. Look, it's on loan. It's not even supposed to be up here. Dad made me promise not to touch it, so we're not going to. She stared into my eyes, daring me to flinch. Got it, I smiled. So do you want to stargaze with your binoculars and listen for owls, or maybe watch a movie? I bet they had all the streaming services. We can watch a movie. You can watch a movie. I'm tracking birds. Jade ran downstairs, reappearing seconds later with a pair of binoculars. She had draped the throw from the sofa over her shoulders. I'll join you, I blurted without thinking. Still, those stars were pretty amazing. It gets chilly out there. Jade paused at the door, like she thought I couldn't handle a little cold. I grabbed my fuzzy fleece blanket from the armchair and turned off the lights so we could see the sky in all its glory. The starlight scattered across the velvet night, sparkling the dark with silver brilliance. Even the clouds that gathered at the edges couldn't spoil the effect. Wow, I pointed. Shooting star. That's a satellite, said Jade. You can tell by its steady motion. We followed its path across the sky. Keep looking. I'm sure you'll see another actual shooting star soon. I wasn't so sure, but I laid down on a lounge chair and focused on the night sky. And that's not supposed to happen. Jade's forehead creased with concentration. I squinted at what she was pointing. A crack of emerald opened above us. Fragment of torn rays rippled along the crack edges. Ahem. And the phosphorus ribbons of light silhouetted the pine trees and flickered like flames, running up and down the length of the giant undulating curtains, swaying the magnificent wind, nothing like a meteor shower. I jumped up staring. The northern lights, Jade mumbled it like a spell. It can't be. I stood on my tippy toes like it would help me see. I thought it only happened up north, like Scotland and Alaska. Yeah, Jade paused, forehead scrunched like she was trying to remember something, but planetary events can push them further south. Planetary events like what? I was totally relying on her to have access to Oliver's encyclopedia knowledge of astrophysics through osmosis or birth or something. Sunstorms can cause auroras like this that knock out satellites and power grids. It happens in Canada. She sucked the air between her teeth. And you know that how, Dad? I nodded. I was right. Oliver probably had an episode about unusual auroras on his Astro Professor podcast series, and Jade probably knew all of them word for word. It was weird suddenly being related to a geek celebrity, like winning a prize in a drawing you didn't enter. A ripple of fuchsia entwined with ripples of green impulsed through the sky. We stood motionless, scared to move for fear of disappearing like a dream. I'm sure I forgot to close my mouth. It's amazing, said Jade. I nodded. My heart was singing. That moment, I clicked an invisible camera in the front of my eye, a frozen image to be captured forever locked in my memory. We don't want to leave the deck, not while the kaleidoscope of auroras was still dancing, but it was freezing. So we bundled up and laid side by side, swaddled in blankets. The wind whooshed like waves through the trees. Dark clouds rushed over the mountains, snuffling out the stars, cluster by cluster. The auroras faded then vanished completely. An owl hooted in the distance, a great gray owl, according to Jade. We should go in before we freeze to death. I sat up, shivering in the chilled air. That was incredible, said Jade. I'm going to call Dad and see if he saw it too. She rushed inside. It's their honeymoon, I shouted after her. The air chilled. Something rustled in the undergrowth. I hurried inside, locking the night behind me. Jade, I flickered the wall switch. The light bulb was out. I made my way to the floor lamp. By the dim light of the fire, that was out too. In the kitchen, the fridge no longer hummed. The dishwasher was mute. I smacked into the corner of the side table, knocking over a stack of magazines on the ground. The fake bearskin rug felt like it was too real. The whole cabin was thick with silence. Jade, where are you? Branches swept against the windows. Jade, I whispered. The bookshelves loomed. The telescope glinted from its glass cage. I beamed my mobile phone's light along the wall. A masked frogman with huge eyes and an angular beard stared at me from a distressed gold frame. Jade popped. I'm right here. I ran down for my charger. I can't get the lights to work. I flicked the hall light switch on and off to demonstrate. Let me see. Little clicks from all around the kitchen as Jade turned on multiple switches. Nope, it's all dead. She said, nothing works. Her voice echoed in the dark. Chapter 3, 10:25 p.m. This was not supposed to happen, okay? I mumbled to myself. It was quiet and dark. I'd gnawed on my lip and licked the blood away. It happened just like I said. The auroras tripped the power grid. She paused, deep in thought. What exactly happened in Canada? A 9-hour power failure. Don't worry, we're fine here. Yeah, of course. 9 hours. Just get through the night. Should we check the circuit breakers? Please let it be a blown fuse. I'll get the flashlights, said Jade. Such an obvious thing to do that I hadn't thought of. Let's get the torches together. Torches, like flames? Torches, flashlights, whatever, same difference. England and America forever divided by a common language. Not exactly, Jade said. She led the way. I followed her vague outline to the closet by the front door, tripping over a metal bowl and sending it clattering across the floor. My heart went into a frenzy. What's that? Apparently Jade's did too. A dog bowl? I picked it up. I didn't know you had a dog. We don't, she said. Mom was allergic and now Dad just can't. Oh, I don't know what else to say. I placed the bowl back against the wall. Jade opened the closet door. It probably was from Uncle Marvin's dog. He stays here sometime. He brought up the Einstein's telescope for Dad last week. He's an ex-Marine, Dad's best friend. I bet he'd know what to do in an emergency. I never imagined Jade and Oliver having an extended family. People I don't even know were suddenly clinging to branches of my family tree, unlike Dad, who deliberately broke free. I took a sharp breath. Are you okay? Asked Jade. I'm fine. I wasn't about to explain the memories that snuck up on me and pulled me under like a riptide. Jade nodded and turned back to the closet. Here are the flashlights we use for owling. 4 mag lights were neatly lined up in a row on the top shelf. She passed me a satisfyingly hefty one and took another for herself. Look, it's not an emergency. Even if the power's really out, we have food, fire, and water. She paused. That's weird. I thought the emergency radio was in here too. Dog treats. They must be for Uncle Marvin's dog too. She tossed them back. I'm just not used to this pitch black dark, I said, grinning. It wasn't a big deal, yeah. It's a different level of darkness out here, perhaps for owl and stargazing. That's why Dad and I love it. I could hear happy memories in her voice. I followed her across the big room. This kind of thing must happen all the time. Blackouts, I mean, not auroras. Not often. She opened the door and led to the garage, and a blast of cold air greeted us. But it happens. People who live here full-time have generators, but we don't come here often enough to need a backup power or a landline. How often do you come up here? Once a month? Twice a year? The cold crept up my spine. Every few months. It's where Dad feels closest to Mom. Jade bit her lip and opened up the breaker box. I'm sorry, it's hard, isn't it? Oh, so crass. Like she'd want to confide in me. If ever you want to, talk. I was so bad at this. I hated it when people did it to me. It was a long time ago. I was 6. I shouldn't have said anything. I changed the topic. Are your fuse tripped? Jade flickered them off and on again. Nope, they're fine. It's just a good old-fashioned solar power cut. Do you want to call Oliver? I so didn't want to call Mom. My cell phone's out of charge. Of course, that's why she needed a charger. I pulled out mine. No signal. Back in the mountain, the first flecks of snow attached themselves in the window pines. The fire made a little poppy noise, filling the emptiness. We sat in front of it, staring at the flames. I waited for her to speak. but I guess she didn't have anything to say. The silence thickened between us, a reminder that nothing was out there but something, clouds, and rummaging creatures. And far off in the distance, a faint rumble of a car engine. It's coming closer. I rushed to the kitchen window as if I could see. It must be Dad. I knew he'd come back if he thought there was the slightest chance of danger. Jade shook her head, but she smiled. She was actually relieved. Who couldn't blame her? No more pretending to get along. We could go back to being polite strangers. A flurry of snow flew into my face as I cracked the front door. The engine rumbled, filled with night. It had to be end of the road close. Jade pushed past me, flashlight in hand, throw wrapped tightly around her shoulder. She stood practically on her tiptoes, watching the Land Rover appear. The lights were blinding at first. It was a pickup truck, red, not our parents. The driver beeped the horn 4 times, like they were picking someone up. Shit, Jade said, rushed back inside, pulling me with her. We can't just hide, I hissed. They must have seen us. Jade crouched by the door. The truck door creaked open. I peered through. Hello? Oh, so English. Can I help you? A young white guy with seriously sharp cheekbones frowned at me through the windshield. Obviously, I was not who he was expecting. Oh, no. I think we've got the wrong place, he grinned. Sorry to disturb you. We took a wrong turn. Hurry it up, AJ. A guy called from the truck. I got a flash of his green beanie and shiny black jacket. AJ stamped his back Timberland boots. I thought this was our friend's cabin. Obviously it isn't. Didn't mean to scare you. Oh, we're not scared, I smiled brightly to prove it. He tilted and looked past me. Jade appeared. Yeah, me and my stepsister. It sounded so odd. So you okay with the blackout and that crazy sky stuff? He pulled the black beanie off his head and shook his dirty blonde hair. Yeah, crazy. We're fine. It's kind of cold, so I started to close the door, ready to get back inside. Yeah, we're fine, said Jade, with a touch of ice. AJ stepped closer. I just want to make sure you're okay since we're here. Do you need help with anything? You here alone? Our parents are due back any second with takeout. Right, because there are so many places to get food in the middle of nowhere during a blackout. Great. He zipped up his jacket. We'll get going, then have a good night. Thanks. Stay safe. I waved, and they peeled off out of the driveway and beeped their goodbye, a sigh of relief as they disappeared back into the night. Stay safe, Jade arched her eyebrow. Takeout? I know. I played with the flashlight button. At least we know we're not the only ones out here. It did make me feel weirdly better. Yeah, they know we're here alone. Jade rubbed her arms to keep warm. Look, they just took a wrong turn and wanted to be sure we were okay. That's the nice thing to do. I hope you're right. Jade looked out into the dark. At least they're gone. You should never have opened the door like that. Yeah, like you weren't so excited thinking Oliver had come back for his precious daughter, I thought. At least we're fine, as long as we have enough wood to keep this fire going, I laughed. I hope so. I guess Dad didn't expect our only source of heat when he made it. She looked at the 2 small logs on the side of the fireplace. What about those are old and dusty, and they'll burn too fast. You know, sometimes Dad stacks firewood downstairs by the back door. I'll go check. I'll come too. I still felt like I was being watched. I knew it was ridiculous, but the big window in the house made it seem like we were goldfish in a bowl. Our flashlights would be easily visible in the dark night. Not that anyone would be wandering by out here in the middle of nowhere. We made our way downstairs to the back door without saying a word. The cabin creaked around us. That's weird. Jade pointed to the empty hook next to the door. Key's missing. She tried the door handle. The door swung open. Shit, Uncle Marvin must have forgotten to lock it before he'd gone with the keys. Dad'll be furious. We huddled outside around the small stack of wood. From the look on Jade's face, I guess Uncle Martin had depleted that supply too. We carried the 3 remaining logs back inside. Jade bolted the door behind us. It's getting pretty chilly out there. I shook the snow from my hair. Yeah, Jade said, taking the stairs 2 at a time. We should stay in the main room by the fire until the power comes back on. Good idea. I hugged myself for warmth. It was amazing how fast the cabin cooled down when central heating stopped working. Back upstairs, our flashlight beams would make the world outside seem darker. A world of whispers, branches scraping against the cabin walls, and snow dancing on glass. How far do you think this blackout goes. I tapped my finger on the wooden floor, then stopped so Jade could think. It's off season. Most of the cabins here are still empty, so their lights wouldn't be on anyway. Could be a mile or 20. Jade's voice ricocheted across the cathedral ceiling. Great. The cold curled in under the window sills. The fire gave a small amount of heat, but highlighting the dark around us, black on black on black. Near shadows with darker shadows hiding behind them. Should we add another log? Snow pattered against the window. Yeah, but we'll need them to last all night if the power. Jade perused her lips. I got it. Saying it out loud made the possibility too real. I opened the glass door, the fireplace, and placed 2 giant pine cones from the nearby basket onto the dying embers instead. They were caught fast, blazing up in almost a second. Those aren't made for pyres. I balanced a log on top of the flames. Sorry, not that. No, not the damp logs, Jade said. Dry, never damp. She said between wheezes. Okay, is it asthma? I poked the damp log. I'm really sorry. Jade nodded and caught her breath. I only get it around smoke and cold air. She took a deep breath. I'll be right back. She disappeared in the stairwell. See, I'll be fine. She took 2 puffs. You sure? The miracle of modern science. She smiled to let me know she was fine. Everything was okay. And having a stepsister who didn't even know how to make safe fires was totally normal. All right, then. I'll fix this. I cracked the fireplace doors back open and placed a dry log on top of the smoldering pine cones. The faint flames flickered reluctantly at first before running along the top of the log, bursting brightly as they fell onto the pine cones. We had a fire again. I slammed the glass door shut and grinned to Jade. Yay, and said Jade unenthusiastically. I wonder if they have power in Reno. They'd call, right? I checked my phone again. No signal, which would go to voicemail. Jade frowned. Yeah, and if we didn't answer, he calls or texts him, Dad will freak out and drive back. I shook my head. That doesn't make sense. It would be dangerous to drive back in pitch black with no streetlights. And anyway, they were together, 2 complete teens, right? We have fire, torches, food. Why would they spoil their honeymoon to check on us? They know we're fine. There was no way Mom would ruin her night worrying about me. Jade continued like I hadn't spoken. I just don't want him to be worried. He trusts you, whatever happens, right? Smart scientific daughter and all that. True, her shoulders relaxed. Hey, you're not wheezing anymore. My foot tapped restlessly against the floorboard. Jade glanced. We should get more blankets to stay warm so that we don't need to make a big fire to use all the logs too fast. The flames flickered and dwindled in the fireplace. A nagging seed of doubt sprouted in my gut. I avoided looking at the black expanse outside for fear of how big and empty it was and how awful it would be. And a face appeared at the window. I tried to shake the thought from my head, but it stayed there, banging around the sides of my skulls. I could hear every movement Jade made, bounding down the stairs, creaking open the door, running across her room, then nothing. What was she doing? I waited for her to come back up. There was nothing down there, just the wind making unfamiliar noises, rattling against the windows, blowing down the chimney. We'd go to sleep and wake up, and that would be it. Night done. And we would go home, and I could get on with the rest of my life, except I couldn't. I swallowed hard. I didn't have a home. We left San Francisco. This was my new life. Forced time with Jade, playing besties in a weekend cabin while Mom went off with Oliver. My head throbbed. Jade emerged, carrying a pillow and a huge puffy quilt. She put on an extra sweater. That was probably the worst night she'd ever had, stuck in the dark cold with me. All right, Jade? I asked my fellow prisoner. Yep, she said, bedding down near the fire. You should get more layers on in case the fire goes out while we're sleeping. I hadn't even thought about that. I didn't have many clothes with me. The spare fleeces and Dad's old Morehouse College sweatshirts and coat in the closet if you don't want to go downstairs again. I nodded and walked to the coat closet. I threw on the first fleece I touched. It was a bit too big, but it was soft and warm. I gathered up all the artfully folded throws from the sofa and made a blanket for it. Want to make some s'mores or tell ghost stories or something? Let's not pretend this is a fun sleepover. Jade buried herself under her quilt. All right, then. That was one way to make the night go quicker. I huddled Huddled by the fire, the cabin grew extra rooms around us in the dark. The walls were higher, the corridors longer, the creaks louder. Swaddled in the night, sounds became sharper. The crackle of the fire, the dust of the snow on the windows, and the faint crunching of very careful, very quiet footsteps. That is it. I read chapter 2 and 3 from Don't Let the Cold In. It's getting good, guys. It's getting good. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, please hit subscribe so I can continue to do this. I'm going to continue to do this whether you guys like it or not, because I need to read books for my bookshelf. So I hope you love it. And yeah, mwah.